Hi, I'm Catherine Clark, and I'm Interim President of the University of Rio Grande and Rio Grande Community College. And I'm wondering, have you thought about the rich history that we have in our part of the state? Well, if you have not, we have a special guest with us today. It's Jeanne Jindra, and she's going to tell us about the history of the Welsh population in southern Ohio. So stay tuned. Well, hello again. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very happy to have as our guest Jeanne Jindra. She is part of the Madog Center, which is the Welsh Studies program. And Jeanne, I'm so glad you're here.
Diolch yn fawr iawn,
oh my
Dr.
goodness.
Clark.
Oh
Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness gracious. Tell me what that meant.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much.
Or
All
if
right.
you want to say thanks, it's just diolch.
Diolch. All right. I'll remember that, I hope, at the end of the program to say diolch. Right? Is that
Good.
correct?
That's it.
Okay, good. Well, tell me a bit about the Welsh history in this part of the state.
Well, you were right when you said that we have a rich Welsh history, because the first settlement here was accidental. And it's such a heartwarming story. There was a group of 35 Welsh people from southwest Wales, and they were under the patriarch John Jones Tierbach, and he had his extended family with him, and they wanted to come to Cincinnati to live near another Welsh family that had previously immigrated. So they left Wales, they left Liverpool in April, and they were 4 months getting just to Galpalis. Oh. And I know, when they, can you imagine?
By ship and then overland?
Coming into Baltimore Harbor and basically coming across the Allegheny Mountains.
Oh my gosh.
On covered wagons. Yeah. And then down the Ohio River on a flatboat. And they had many, many children with them. So they saw the French 500 cabins, and they needed... So
it was about the same time?
It was 1818.
Okay.
The French had been here for some time, but they were still living in the square.
Yeah.
And
the park front, right?
They saw cabins and smoke, so they put in for boat repairs and also provisions. And they were welcomed warmly by the French. Now, I always wonder how they communicated, but being both from other countries, they must have found a way. And the story is that they spent the night here at the riverfront, and the next morning, their boat was gone, their flatboat was gone.
Oh my goodness.
Well.
Oh my, that was, I guess, an accident that was an event that was for a good, as it turned out, right?
Right.
Someone had taken it, or it had floated away?
It had floated away.
Oh my goodness.
Although there's always the stories that, did the French, who wanted the Welsh to stay with them, did they cut it loose? Or then there's the theory that the Welsh women had gone far enough.
Oh my, I like that
in their
story.
journey. I like that story too.
I like that story.
So basically, they did find the flatboat, but not before the women of the party said they would not step back on the boat.
Good.
So the men agreed. And if you think about it, I figured it one day, it's about 230 miles from here to Cincinnati, and they were that close. But they did stay, and they didn't like where they were in the riverfront area because of the fear of malaria.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So John Jones left the party there and walked inland to about Rio Grande, a little bit further north of Rio Grande. And they ended up buying farms. Each of the 5 families bought farms in this area. Now that is a great story of accidental settlement.
It is, right.
That's how it started,
right,
or
right.
we wouldn't have the rich Welsh
Now,
heritage.
why did they leave Wales? Was it for political reasons or economic reasons or a combination?
I think a combination. I think they were seeking better lives. Of course, Wales is a very small country, and not very many of the Welsh were able to own land. They were tenant farmers, and they pretty much had to take what they could get. Although the tenancies would last for generations, but they were still not able to buy land. And then as their families grew, there were not opportunities for their children. So they left for better lives, but they also left for religious reasons, because many of them were breaking away from the Church of England, and they were really wanting to worship in their own way.
So what is the religion? What
the Church of England?
No, the Wales.
The people?
Yeah.
They brought their religions with them. The first Welsh actually did not build a church. Most Welsh that come over, that's the first thing they do after they build their homes. There's Calvinistic Methodism, and there is congregational, and there are a few Baptist churches and an Episcopal church, but mostly they were the CM, the Calvinistic Methodists, and also the Congregationalists.
Maybe that's why I like the music so much. It's the Methodist heritage, maybe.
Could be.
Yeah.
And the funny story that I've read is most of the Calvinistic Methodist churches were built in the interior of the area that was settled by the Welsh. And the Congregationalists, who were really more to themselves, built in the perimeter.
Oh, that's interesting. Interesting, yeah, right. So what happened, I mean, from those 5 families? Then did other people come over from Wales that knew where they were, or are the descendants all from those 5 families?
Well, that's a great question. For about 12 years, they were the only Welsh in this area. And they really just set about making better lives and building their houses. I do believe that they worshiped in their houses. And there's records that some of that party worshiped with the Methodists in Centerville. Then in about 1832, Reverend Edward Jones came from Cincinnati, and he was a traveling minister from Wales, and he had heard about this group down in southern Ohio. So he came and he preached to them in their mother tongue, which I'm sure they were thrilled to hear. And he was so impressed with what he saw that he went back to Wales and he wrote The American Traveler, Americanai Tethier, and it was a travelogue. And it said the place that you need to go in Ohio, if you decide to go to Ohio, is not Cincinnati, and it's not the Welsh Hills, it's southern Ohio, which was Jackson and Gallia counties.
Oh, how interesting.
And after that, the Great Welsh Tide happened, and that was between the 1835 and maybe 1845, 1850, and we had over 3,000 Welsh that settled here.
Oh my goodness, wow.
And that's why there's so many Joneses and Evanses.
I was going to ask you about the family names because, you know, we know in this area, I talk to folks and they talk about their Welsh heritage. And there's some pretty common names that come up. So you said Jones.
Jones is the #1 Welsh surname.
Okay.
Evans and Price, Williams, Davis is probably the second most common Welsh surname. But you know, you get some really interesting names. But in this area, the imprint of the Welsh settlement is still on the landscape in the road names. There's Joe Evans Road that you see, Tinrose Road.
Yeah, sure.
It's very interesting. And a lot of them not only brought their names, but they brought their farm names, and that's what Tinrose is.
Is that right?
The name
I did not
of the
know
farm.
that. Yeah. And what does that mean?
Tinrose is house on the moor.
Oh, house on the moor. That's
and that was John
interesting.
Jones Tinrose's farm name in Wales, and that was how they differentiated between the John Jones Turbach, who was the first Welsh patriarch, and then John Jones Tinrose.
Yeah. Well, and I'm somewhat familiar with the Tinrose area and the Tinrose Church. Can you tell us a little bit about the church and what its history is?
The Tinrose Church was first organized and probably in the home of John Jones Tinrose. He came in the 1840s. He and his wife came later, and they started worshiping. And Tinrose Church was let me see, make sure I get this correct. This is a congregational church because it's one of the churches that we still hold a Gamanva in. And it was really one of the first of the congregational churches, and then Oak Hill was built after that. It's hard to keep the churches straight when you talk about Welsh churches. They built 27.
Oh my! Just in this area.
Just in Jackson and Gallia County.
That's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
And but that's what they did. They brought their Bibles. They brought their love of singing with them. So all of the churches were known, of course, for their beautiful choirs.
Yes, right. And we have evidence of that here with the descendants who we know are great vocalists, and they certainly have added so much to the music in this area too with their talent and their songs. Now, tell me a bit about the center here on campus and how that started and what the mission is and what you do with that area, with that center.
The mission of the Madog Center is basically to foster understanding and appreciation for Welsh heritage and Welsh culture, and also contemporary Welsh culture. Excuse me. I think it's really important that we don't just think about history and the way things were, but we consider that Wales is a vibrant country, and there's all kinds of young people, and I think especially considering that, you bring in our young people, because the old ways are traditional to us and we love them, but young people don't especially want to sing songs and hymns and go to Gamanfas. So as a result, I call the generation that put the Madog Center together my father's generation. My father was a Jones, of course, that's my surname, and he was a proud Welsh American. All of his paternal great-grandparents came from Cardiganshire, which is where most of the immigrants came from. And his generation, as they were retiring, they were looking for things to do, and they formed a Welsh society, and the Cardigan Club, and they met, and they really enjoyed talking and sharing their Welsh heritage. And then they bought, they bought into the idea that we needed something. So as a result, Dr. Barry Dorsey was president of University of Rio Grande at the time, and he was very supportive. I don't believe he had Welsh heritage, but he was very supportive. And with the help of course, Evan E. Davis and his wife Elizabeth, and major other donors, we established the Welsh Center on campus, the Madog Center. And Prince Madog was a legendary prince of Wales, and he was supposed to have been here in
during what period of time?
1100s.
Okay.
1120.
I was going to ask you the meaning of the name
of Madog. And so they asked the Davises what they would like to name the center, and they decided to honor Prince Madog, and that's why we're the Madog Center for Welsh Studies. And we were established in 1997, and around that time we had an English teacher, Megan Lloyd, very Welsh name, and her family was from Oak Hill. She was very interested in also organizing the center. She was the first director. So we have a really strong history, and we were such an academic center to start with. We had several conferences here on campus, and that is how we started.
Right. And now how has that evolved? I mean, now what other kinds of activities does the center support?
First and foremost, I think it's important that people know we are the management group for the Welsh Scenic Byway. There are about 25 Ohio byways in the Ohio Scenic Byways program, and the Welsh Scenic Byway was organized pretty much right after the Madog Center was established, and so we still to this day handle the Welsh Byway. That's something that it requires a totally different skill set, you know, I think, than you think about an academic director. But we do that, and we also have an exchange program with University of Wales, Trinity Saint David, in 3 campuses in Wales. We have an internship program which brings a fluent Welsh speaker over every 2 years, and that is the Davis internship. And this is our 6th intern that we have currently, and I believe that this audience has probably met Dan Robotham before.
Yeah, I think he's been on with you the last time, I believe.
He was, and it's a wonderful program, Dr. Clark, because it brings contemporary Wales to our students, and they realize just how important it is, you know, to accept other cultures and also to learn about them. So Dan's been wonderful.
He has been, and I know with Dan being on campus, he's just such a wonderful presence because he is very active in a lot of the student organizations and activities, and he does not hesitate to get himself involved with the other students, and he's just a great influence as far as bringing that international perspective and helping our students that are here on campus to be exposed to someone who has quite a different experience and background.
I think that's well said, and I think we've really had some good interns before. Dan has to be, you know, right up there because he just understands what it takes to be here, and not only with the students and his peers, but with adults, and he just anticipates things that will make my job easier.
Yeah, and he's able to insert himself into these activities, and he has a lot of self-confidence.
Absolutely.
And does not hesitate to do that. He just kind of just has that presence about him that is very appealing. So we're happy to have him, and quite frankly, I'll be sorry to see him leave. I think, isn't this his last term here?
It's his last, well, he has 2 terms here. He'll leave in December.
Okay, so good. I've got
But you had asked about other activities and related to the internship. He goes into schools and he gives cultural presentations. He's gone into Gallia Academy. He's, of course, been to Rio Elementary. He's been to Oak Hill Elementary and High School. He's worked with the Oak Hill Senior High Choir, and they were performing for us at our Christmas program. It was absolutely phenomenal. He also has held Welsh language workshops. I hesitate to call them classes because they really are not credit classes, but he started in Columbus and he had about 20 people interested through the Welsh Society there. And now, this semester, he has about 16 that are meeting on the campus to learn the basic Welsh language, and then he's got about 20 that meet at the Welsh Museum.
Oh, how wonderful.
It's been very popular. And as a result of, you know, just his going out into the community, it brings new people into us. And I think that our internship program really, it does bring a lot to the Madog Center. The Jackson City schools are one of the only schools that still have an Eisteddfod. And he'll go in and teach all the 5th graders in Jackson City schools a Welsh song. And then they have a choice. They can sing that or they can sing another song in English.
Oh, my. Wow.
And then we attend and we just make a big deal about, oh, that's wonderful that you will do
I was
that.
at the faculty concert last term, and Dr. Saren Williams sang one of her songs was in Welsh.
Suagan, yes.
Suagan. Okay.
And she was coached by Dan, and we were just very thrilled that she chose to learn a Welsh song, and she did a wonderful job.
That was nice, Now, what kinds of, I mean, you have some things that you brought, and we were going to talk about some of the traditions and holidays. So where do we start? Where would you like to start?
I think let's start with St. David's Day, because basically that is a very important holiday in Wales. Saint David is the patron saint of Wales, and he is revered because he was a very simple man. He lived in, well, he died on March the 1st in 589, so he lived thousands of years ago, but he was a priest and a missionary, and he liked to tell people to do the simple things in life. So when he was made, when he was appointed, or I guess you're not really appointed to be a patron saint, but when they announced that Saint David would be the patron saint, they decided to celebrate his day on the day of his death. And the legend has it that a few days before his death, and he was over 100 supposedly, he told his audience, do the simple things, just do as I have done. And he had a simple diet. He was known to eat bread and herbs and water, and he supposedly performed a few miracles, but he is being celebrated every March the 1st, and the daffodil is a very beautiful emblem of Wales, so I brought a daffodil, and we'll hopefully see those again if we get some warm weather.
Yes.
And in Wales, they celebrate St. David's Day. The schoolgirls would wear traditional Welsh dresses and costume, and then the boys would wear maybe a leek in their caps. Leeks were a symbol of Wales, are a symbol of Wales today, and there are parades, there are celebrations, and I think we've carried that over here, because what we do in America for St. David's Day, in the bigger cities, New York and Chicago, they have St. David's Day parades, and also lighting, you know, the towers would be green and white and red for the Welsh dragon on the flag.
Yes, yeah.
And that is probably the biggest tradition. There are many Christmas traditions that we've talked about in Wales, but the male choir is a wonderful tradition that they have. Not only male choirs, but mixed choirs and youth choirs. And so it's very popular in Wales to belong to a choir, whether you can sing well or not.
Oh my, yes.
And and then they'll go out and, you know, go to the local pub after choir practice, and then if you're lucky enough to be in that pub, you know, you'll hear more singing as they drink their pints of beer. Yeah. So it's just a.
So is there a local choir?
There was the St. David's choir. D. Merrill Davis had that choir. Evan Davis was in it, and I have tapes of their performances. They always performed at our St. David's Day. However, you know, as the generation got older and people started passing away, it's a different choir now in Jackson. The D.M. Davis choir is the male choir, organized by Wilbur McCormick, and they also have a women's choir. So there is.
Now, do they have performances for the public, open to the public?
They do. I believe in March on the third Sunday in Jackson at the Marquee. There will be one. I'll put a little plug in for
All right, the third Sunday.
I believe it's the third Sunday in March that they'll be giving a concert. So you could check the D.M. Davis Choir. I'm sure they have a Facebook page.
Yeah. Right, that's wonderful. What other kinds of celebrations are traditional?
We have pretty much talked about most of the important celebrations. In this area at the Welsh American Heritage Museum, we celebrate the first Sunday of Advent, and we have an Advent carol sing. Again, we bring in the singing, and we always try to bring children's choir in. And then we have a tea bock afterwards. And a tea bock is a small tea, and it would be common to have tea or punch and Welsh cakes.
Oh my.
So.
Oh my, yeah. So describe a Welsh cake.
A Welsh cake is much like a fried cookie with currants in it. They're very short, and they have quite a bit of butter in them, and they're just a nice little treat that you would have. They're not too sweet. Yeah. And they also have a treat called Bara Brith, And Barrabrith has, again, it's like a bread with dried fruit in it.
Yeah.
So, and we had some at Dan's Welsh class last Tuesday night. There's one of the students, he's an older student. His father and mother were born in Wales, and he has joined this class so he can revisit the Welsh language, and he made Barrabrith, and it was a wonderful treat.
Oh, nice. Now, you did go over to Wales, too. There's some groups that visit, right? I mean, you have a tour periodically?
We did. It's not a periodical tour as such. Last summer, they had Cymru, Ohio 2018, and it's strange to think that the Welsh organized a celebration for the 200th anniversary of their people leaving, but they did.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And because they celebrate more in Wales than we do here. So a week-long activity was planned between the 23rd of June and June 30th. And I have to tell you, we were treated like royalty. There were 50 Welsh Americans that went over, and they had just week-long activities, concerts, exhibits. There was a reenactment in one of the churches, and they reenacted leaving.
Oh my, how interesting.
It was wonderful. Yeah. And then every night we ended with a pub night, which is so typical.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It was a wonderful celebration, and many of us still today get together to revisit that, because a lot of my friends and colleagues went on that trip.
Yeah,
so.
right.
And I go over every year, Dr. Clark, for the Eisteddfod, because Madog Center is one of 5 organizations in Cymru Gagla the Merrig, which is Wales, North America. And we're an organized group that is trying to network in Wales and keep the ties strong. So I'm very active on the local level, but I also am active on the national level, and I try very hard to let people know that how important the Madog Center is.
Right. And it sounds like you do something that is dear to your heart and that you really enjoy. Not only is it part of your heritage, but it's something that you really is something you enjoy doing.
I do. Yeah. I enjoy it. I know. My father would be very proud.
Oh, it's wonderful. Before we go, you mentioned the dragon.
Yes.
And for those of you who have visited our village of Rio Grande, you may have seen some of the flags that have the dragon on them. I actually have a pillow. I should have brought it, but I have a pillow with the red dragon on it. So tell us just a bit about it. I think we have a few seconds.
The Dragok, the red dragon, has become the symbol of the Welsh flag, because there supposedly was a battle between the Welsh and the English, one of many, and the Welsh dragon was supposed to have won. And if you hang the Welsh flag correctly, its tail end will always point towards England.
Oh, so interesting.
A lot of people aren't aware of that, but there is a correct way to hang that flag, and that is one reason that I have been so happy to work with Mayor Matt Easter.
Yes.
He's really embraced the Welshness of this area. And you see street signs with dragons, and you see their flags. And it's on the flood wall, and he contacted me last week and wanted to know if we wanted to participate in another project that the village will have. So yes, it makes me very happy to come to Rio Grande.
He's very, very involved in the campus and the village and pulling us together, so we're all indebted to him.
And I need to get him to Wales. He would really become a believer.
He would be fun to go to the pubs with, too, I think.
Don't you think?
I think so, yeah. Well, we thank you so much for coming and sharing the story of the folks who came over from Wales. And that is something that we can all benefited from, is from that history. And also for your work with the Madog Center and the Welsh Studies. And I hope that we'll have some other times that we can visit.
And do you remember how to say thank you?
I wasn't going to even mention it.
Diolch.
Diolch.
Diolch is
Diolch,
thanks.
all right. Diolch.
Diane.
Thank you.